I've been circling this guest for so long, and now he's finally in the studio.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
All right, you guys, welcome on into To The Point with Kristyn Burtt, presented by Dance Network and Popcorn Talk. And I love this because this particular guest, everyone always has so many questions. We talk so much about you, and now you're finally here. Welcome, Alan Salazar.
Thank you for having me.
All right. You know, you are one of those people I feel like I have circled like around you, but I've never met you. So this is kind of nice to finally have you here.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So, you know, we always like to sit there and get started with everyone and try to find out like their start in dance, because it seems lately that I've been interviewing people and everyone's starting at like 13, 18, 21, 24. And I'm like, I thought you had to start at 3 and 4 because that's when I started. I was a youngster. How about for you?
You know what? I started in junior high. I was 13 years old, and there was a ballroom class offered as an elective class. And so I jumped in there, and it became such a fun social thing to do. I wasn't really into sports. I was always a little bit more artistic, or I think, more artistically inclined. And I never saw the correlation of dance and art back then. But it became just a good social networking and just a new avenue of having something to do after school.
Were your family dancers at all or anyone into it?
No.
But you're from Utah, right?
I'm from Utah.
Okay, so Utah has a strong dance culture, though, for sure.
Yes, definitely.
Were a lot of your friends dancing at the time, too, or?
You know what? No. But by the next year, when I was, it was the following year, they had a bump up to 7 classes per day because ballroom became so popular, because it became a thing.
Oh, that's funny.
And so it was fun because it was more acceptable, and then you had jocks and nerds and, just people from all different types of...
Now, I don't know exactly when you were growing up in Utah, but were any of the dance competition shows on the air at that point, and that's why they added?
No, not at all.
Okay, so you're a little older. I didn't know. I was like, I don't ask people's age. We don't want to know anyone's age in Hollywood, but I didn't know, because sometimes, do you understand, is there any sort of reasoning why all of a sudden it became so popular?
You know, there's a handful of really great dance studios up and down the Wasatch Front, and I think there's not a whole lot to do sometimes out there. And dance is one of those things that demands so much of your time, and it's a fun thing. And so I think parents are just very encouraging to have their kid involved in music or in sports or in dance. And dance just became such a popular thing, and they always had dance in school, in the junior high schools, and then in the high schools, and the dance companies and the drill teams and the song leaders. And so dance became something that was kind of trendy, and that it really made you feel a part of something. And I think for the majority of females in Utah, that was the thing to do. So I think there's you have so much influence from your friends at school and stuff. And so when someone was dancing, whether you were dancing at the same studio, it was something that I think just brought people together.
How about for guys? Because sometimes it's not as cool for guys to dance.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think I really dealt with that a whole lot until I started to question it, until I was like, is this okay? By then, I'd already taken a good 4 years of dance, but then it was like my senior year in high school, and I was so like socially awkward and like really loved dance, and so all my energy and focus went into dance. And then I would go to school and just kind of be like a hermit and just like kind of stick to myself because I wasn't sure if dance was acceptable. I did speak to someone much later in life, maybe a couple of years ago, who recollected that back then he used to be envious that I was already doing what I knew I wanted to be doing.
Isn't that funny?
At that age. And back then I was like so self-conscious that I was doing something that I really enjoyed and wasn't sure if it was okay.
Isn't it funny though how you like have this wisdom when you're older and you sit there and you look back and you're like, why didn't anyone tell me that? Like I wish they told me then, like, oh, I admire you for knowing what that, but we're
Right.
all like at that age too. Everyone's just going through that awkward stage and
Right.
questioning everything. And
Yeah.
it lasts a while too, because you go to college or don't go to college, even in your early 20s, you're like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
It takes a while to kind of come into your own.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
And I feel like I'm still doing that.
Aren't we all? I promise you, we're all doing it.
Yeah.
And even on your most confident day, there's always like that little self-doubt in your head of like, what am I doing?
Right.
Am I doing this right?
Right.
Or should I just like pack up and go back home and just call it a day? But
Yeah.
that's not the point.
Yeah, and the other thing was that I came into a studio that had like 10 boys there already because of the ballroom program. And so when I joined Center Stage, I joined my freshman year of high school to take one ballroom class a week, and then eventually auditioned for the ballroom team, and then got thrown into jazz and ballet and breakdancing.
That's amazing.
And then eventually, and hip hop, and then eventually, all the boys were kind of spread out, and we were encouraged to do everything, and so we were on the hip hop company, the jazz company, and the ballroom team.
You were dancing a lot then.
Yes, it was a lot. It was insane. I don't think kids dance as much as I felt like we did back then.
Amazing. No, I have to ask, since Center Stage is obviously one of the bigger studios in Utah, who were you in class with at that time? Because I know we've got a lot of So You Think and Dancing with the Stars alums that went there.
You know what?
Did you cross over with anyone?
So much older. Let's see. James Toyleva that did.
Yep.
He was season 2. Thane Jasperson.
Yep.
Ashley and Ryan DeLello.
Of course. Yep.
I think that was about it
Okay.
that I like danced with.
Yeah.
Everyone else was
A little bit
much
younger, a little older. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, it's interesting because that studio has a really strong history in producing great dancers and great dancers that work.
Right.
And I think that's, what did you think that you got out of, being a student there?
Oh wow! You know what? It was a diversity in training. It was being well-rounded. It was being my teachers there instilled so much confidence in me just by giving me chances, just providing opportunities and then allowing us to show up. And I think someone having confidence in you is sometimes all it takes.
Yeah.
Just long enough for you to figure it out on your own and then to keep moving from there.
Yeah, and you remember it for a long time too,
Yeah.
when people instill confidence or have confidence in you. Even if you don't have it in yourself, it's something that you remember even 10 years later. You're like, I remember that moment and what it meant to me, I think.
Yeah.
So I know that a bunch of you're one of the High School Musical.
Oh my gosh.
Did you what, 2? High School Musical 2?
I just did 2. I was supposed to do 3 as well. But I was actually in the airport. I was at LAX at the end of, we had done competitions. It was at the end of the season. I was on my way to Hawaii. And I was in the airport at LAX, and I got the call saying, hey, can you be here? It was like Saturday, and they're like, can you be here Monday for rehearsal for High School Musical 3?
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just a week, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I'm actually on my way. Let me see what I can figure out. And it was going to cost me like $1,500 to get a flight a couple days early. And I was so tired. I was like, you know what? And they had offered, they said, we'll have another scene for you. So
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
And then it never happened.
And then you're like, ah!
So, and yeah, that was one of the things where I'm like, oh man.
And it was the feature film too, in the
bigger.
third one. So I know as a kid too, you're probably like, I'm so stressed out about this. But what do you remember? Do you remember anything from shooting High School Musical 2?
I do. I actually met Gev on that shoot, and actually a couple other dancers that are out here now.
Britt Stewart was in it, and
I don't think I met Britt. I don't think she was
Allison
in my
Holker
scene.
was in it.
I knew Allie.
Yeah.
I was in the baseball scene, so
Okay.
it was all boys.
Yeah.
I remember working with Kenny Ortega was quite the experience. He's so energetic and has so much passion. And I was so nervous the entire time because I don't play baseball. I don't do crazy tricks. I feel like I just stumbled onto like
You're like,
the
how did I
set,
get
and
here?
I was like, why is everyone so much younger than me? People are doing backflips, and then there's like just baseball players that are doubles that were doing some of the baseball tricks, I guess. And yeah, I don't know. But I was so nervous the whole time. I feel like I just kind of shut down. But when we got to set and we were filming and there's so many people there and there's all the lights, the energy of shooting and having Kenny yelling at you and not wanting to mess up because there's so many things going on at the same time, that pressure and that the camaraderie that happens for those 60 seconds of like nonstop focus is so intense and so powerful and so cool. And it was just it was a really cool moment.
And it was such a huge film. Like one kept on getting bigger than the next. That's what's kind of amazing about it. Disney Channel wasn't even expecting the first one to really do anything.
Right.
So by the time the second one rolled around, I mean, everyone was like a bona fide superstar.
Totally.
That's amazing. Yeah. Have you worked with Kenny Ortega after that at all?
I have not. There was an opportunity where I was going to dance in the 2002 Olympics opening ceremonies, and it actually I ended up going to 2 rehearsals and then deciding not to continue. Because
what was that decision about?
I was one of like 500.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. It's
the Olympics. It's the opening ceremony and closing ceremony. It's big. Yeah.
But also at the time I was teaching and I was training, so I felt like I would have to sacrifice a lot of that to be someone like with a cowboy hat. I would only be able to say that I had the experience, which at the time didn't mean as much as it does now.
Right. I know. Do you think back on it and you're like, oh, I wish my younger self understood maybe the magnitude of it?
I do think my name was in the program though.
Oh.
So
you are part of history.
So I could get some credit.
So you're part of history
Yes.
even though you weren't there for it. So when did you make the move from Utah to LA?
About 3 years ago.
You've only been here for 3 years?
Yes.
So have you been you were primarily working in Utah and teaching and choreographing?
Yes, I taught in Utah for 13 years before coming out here.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you go to college after high school, or did you go right into teaching?
I didn't. I started teaching actually at 16.
Okay.
And I haven't stopped.
I know, and you were just saying you're going to be adding classes here in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So that's exciting news.
I'm excited to get that started.
Well-known studio to be announced. Let's put it that way.
TBA.
TBA. I know. I was like, can I say it? And he was like, not yet. But where were you teaching? Were you teaching all over Utah? Were you doing the convention circuit?
I was teaching all over. I was on faculty at maybe close to 20 studios in those 13 years at some point. And then I did a lot of guest teaching for the other studios or the high schools or the dance companies or the pre-professional and professional companies. I felt like I had reached my reach, the max of my reach, and I was starting to get disenchanted and less interested in continuing to do the exact same thing over and over again. I felt like I started to level out.
That happens. You reach that plateau and you go, what's next?
Yeah.
So what inspired you to move to LA versus, say, New York?
LA just felt more exciting in the direction that I was interested in, which was more the commercial world. I love New York. I love to visit. I would love to do projects there.
Yeah.
I also wanted to get away from the cold. I lived in Utah for so long. I'm like, I can't do another winter. So LA was.
Yeah, I'm from New England. I get it. LA is like, you're like, no snow. It's all good. And then if you need to visit, it's always there.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of LA, did you move to LA to teach and choreograph or continue as a dancer or a combination of both?
Yeah, it was a combination of both. And to be honest, I'm not sure I knew exactly what I was going to be doing once I got out here.
Right.
I kind of just saved a lot of money and was like, all right, this is going to float us for as long as
it does.
As it does.
Exactly. In LA, it goes quickly, unfortunately.
It really does. It definitely has been quite the shift in in focus. Like I've learned that I need to focus a lot more diligently, and I need to hustle a lot harder than I ever did in Utah. In Utah, I definitely had things handed to me because I had made a name for myself.
Of course.
And it was every job I got was word of mouth, which was so great and so kind and generous of everyone and everyone that had recommended me. But I never had to. My hustle was like in the job. Like, how was I going to impress? What was I going to produce? How was I going to give a great class? Instead of hustling to find the opportunities to do that.
Yeah, and I think everyone just thinks like, I'm going to move here, I'm going to get an agent, and the agent will get me the work, and then I audition, and I do a good audition, I get the job. And let me tell you, it does not work that way. And even on my end as an entertainment reporter, still doesn't work that way. And it is one of those things that you have to be persistent, and you have to take no for an answer, and then not accept it, and then just to keep moving forward and being like, I know you need me for this, you just don't realize it yet. But but I think the ones that sort of rise to the top in this town understand that very quickly, and that it's networking, every day is a hustle. Yes. But it's hard to adjust to. I mean, I've had time to adjust to it, but how has it been for you? Because you've only been here a few years. I
don't think it's something that you can adjust to. I think it's something that you just have to flow with. You have to jump in. You have to just choose to like keep fighting and to keep swimming and to stay in it, because it's going to come up. It's going to go up and down, and there's no preparing you for the next thing except to just always be on your toes and always be ready for anything. I've been traveling a lot. Last year, I traveled about 6 months out of the year total.
That's a lot.
It is, and it's great. Utah keeps me living here.
They pay the bills. It's great though.
They really do.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, and it allows me to keep a connection there with studios and with students that I'd known from years past, or that I get to see every year. I get to see them progress just a little bit, and I think that is something that I miss living out here, is the consistency of seeing the same kids or students on a weekly basis, and to be a part of their growth over time.
Yeah, it is very different out here too, where even you teach at a studio. Most of the studios here are professional studios, and the kids are already working at 8, 9, 10 years old, which is amazing. And so they're not necessarily there week to week. It's just they do privates, and that's where maybe if you work one-on-one with someone, you see the growth. But it's not like that hometown dance studio that's producing great dancers, but you don't get that same journey, I would think. Yeah. LA is just more transient. I guess that's probably the way to talk about it. I know that you have done a lot, I would say a lot of solos for a lot of the kids that have been on So You Think You Can Dance. Jenna and, let's see, did you do Brittany's? Whitney. Did you do any for Lindsay?
I actually don't think I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you do any of their auditions for the actual audition to get on the show, or just once they were on the show?
Yes. I think we would usually meet before that audition, before Vegas week.
Before Vegas week.
And sometimes, they would audition usually with a partner, with a ballroom partner.
Yes.
And then it was in that transition from wherever they went to audition to Vegas week, where we would prep a handful of solos in anticipation that if you go from Vegas week, you also have to just keep going.
Yeah.
So it was just creating a formula that worked to make ballroom more commercialized, especially dancing as an individual. And because they were skilled in other things, ballroom might not have been their main strength, but it was something that got them to the doorstep and got them through the door to be seen. So it was using what they're good at and trying to show that without feeling like they weren't strong in just one thing.
Right. They're not just ballroom dancers.
Right.
And that can happen on So You Think, where they're just, they don't worry about the cross-training per se, but sometimes...
They get pigeonholed.
Yeah, they get pigeonholed as the ballroom dancer and like, oh, I didn't know you were so good at contemporary. And they're like, they're cross-trained.
Right,
Come
right.
on. Was Whitney the first person that you had on the show, or had you worked with prior contestants? Because she was season 9.
Whitney and Lindsay both got on that season.
Yeah, season 9. So what did you create strategy-wise for Whitney? Because I even at 18, that girl was on fire. And I was like, there's a maturity to her dancing that I definitely didn't have at 18.
You know what? And I think that fire started a couple years prior, maybe 16. Like when those girls were 16, those girls were I could throw anything at them. Like it was so much fun to teach them. But I felt like when 16, they started to like come into their own a little bit more and started to look less like each other. And Whitney found this performance quality that she could demand attention from the whole room, and she rode that out, and she still is, and she knows how to present herself and how to she knows how to perform. She's you can't deny her when you see her dance.
Yeah, I was actually just watching her last night. She did an Argentine tango with Frankie Muniz, her contestant, and I was sitting there thinking, I couldn't stop looking at her. I was like, Whitney. There is, I mean, and he was doing a great job. He was presenting her really, really well, which is his job as a man anyway. Right. But it was a fire that like I love when she's like just totally on it in the moment, and she really was last night. And that was something that I was like, God, I've loved that about her since season 9 on So You Think.
Totally. And so I think I just embellished off of that. We used a Santa Gold song and used some, I mean, it's pretty basic ballroom steps, and it was kind of jazz funky, but it was very musical, and it was me trying to bring that out of her, that loud, fiery, sultry character that she can evoke so quickly. Oh, it's her birthday. Happy birthday,
Happy
Whitney.
birthday, Whitney. That's right. It is her birthday today.
Birthday.
That's right. I saw it in my time hop that I wished her happy birthday last year. So, well, here's a good question on this. When you have someone like Whitney on, and your style obviously is not just ballroom. It's you're very like fusion, kind of like ballroom jazz. Like, how would you describe your style as a choreographer?
Ooh, I just feel like I'm a choreographer. I don't feel like
You don't want to like
because
yourself.
I feel like I have a lot to offer in different directions,
Yeah.
and I don't like it when dance is trying to be just one thing.
Yeah, like I'm the hip hop choreographer. I'm the ballet choreographer.
When someone predetermines what something is going to be before the choreographer gets to decide. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes.
When someone says, I want you to choreograph this ballroom something, blah, 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 it's like Mad Libs.
You just stuck me in a box.
Insert words, and then
Yeah.
you're like, okay, what do I do with this? And it sometimes creates really great challenges for me, and sometimes it's fun, and sometimes it feels forced. And I rather look at what you're trying to sell, what the point of it is, what the music sounds like, what is it on camera, is it live, and then work around that.
Right.
And I pull from my history and my knowledge of dance and movement, and I try to just bring whatever it needs to be brought to life. But I do pull from ballroom, I do pull from contemporary, whatever that is, from jazz.
That's a big open category these days.
Yeah.
And now sometimes I think, I'm like, that rumba looked like a contemporary dance. Like sometimes I watch it, I'm like, I'm not really sure
Yeah. And
what it is.
And I prefer when you don't have to know, because then you don't have expectations. When you watch a routine and they say it's a rumba routine, and you see some lifts or you see some really beautiful things, you end up critiquing it for reasons that don't actually matter. Like, are you entertained? Is it beautiful? Are transitions smooth? Does it look placed on purpose? I think people try to judge technique because that's all they feel like they can justify. But they end up more than anything just sharing their opinion. which is ironic.
Well, and I think too, like we've gotten to a stage where the technique coming out of dance schools these days, and the kids they've got every technique down. They're so sharp. Like I look and I'm like, I would never compete with any of these kids. My technique would.
Mine.
Yeah. So now I'm always looking at what am I feeling as I'm watching this, because the kids that's just going to give me like, beyond 180 tilt, that it looks amazing, but then at the same time, is there a purpose for it? Was it, did it evoke an emotion? Because if it doesn't, I'm just like, well, that was amazing.
Right. But dancers have raised the bar in technical ability, but sometimes that's all they've raised.
Right.
And it's that they have such a great core training in technique, but what else?
Where's the heart?
Yeah, there's a quote I read that said, to learn music, you must learn the rules. To create music, you must break the rules. And just feel the same way about dance.
Yeah.
Learn your technique, and then learn how you can turn it on its head. Learn how you can invert it. Learn how you can be off balance by knowing what it is like to be on balance. Are you asking questions, or are you just reproducing and reorganizing the same thing over and over again? And I feel like there's a lack of creativity and ownership with people's dancing sometimes. They feel like they're just checking the boxes or trying to match things instead of explore them.
Yeah, and I sometimes felt like the technique level on So You Think this past season 14, was like extraordinary, but there are times that I'm like, it's checking a box.
Yeah.
So that was...
What else?
Yeah, what else? What else you got? Show me your journey. I want to know more. Like, that's definitely something. After you have someone like Whitney on season 9 of So You Think, and you work into Brittany and Jenna, what did you learn from that first season? You're like, okay, great. I've got knowledge of how this all works and what worked for Whitney.
Yeah. I think by then it just felt like, ooh, that worked. Like Whitney's solo just worked. It's so good. I still, it comes across, it'll come up every now and then. And it just was really good. It was a really great way to showcase her, and showcase what she can do, but more importantly, showcase her.
Right.
It wasn't being over choreographed with a bunch of moves.
Yes.
I mean, it's fairly fast, but I just understood. I had to just change my approach to choreograph for camera and for like a flat stage, and that if you give the camera moments, that usually they will find them.
And I will tell you that between Jenna and Whitney, I don't think anyone knows how to find camera. Those two can find anywhere. Yeah. I'm always just like, it's amazing to me. They're like, boom, look, boom. They are great at it. It's so effective.
Natural too.
Mm-hmm. And it's so effective because then you know what? Your eye catches them, and then you in a big group, you follow them across the dance floor.
Yeah.
That's such a big deal.
Totally.
I don't know if you can teach that or not, or like, can you teach that?
Yes, you can teach that.
You can?
I think you can teach anything. I think you just have to take the time, and you have to be curious, and you have to ask questions, and you have to dismantle something to learn how it works.
Have you submitted a choreography reel to Jeff Thacker for the show?
I kind of did.
But kind of didn't?
I kind of did. I just didn't follow up on it.
What?
It was, because you submit through your agency.
Yes.
And I'm really good at focusing on one thing at a time. And if I'm working on something here and then I travel,
you can't go over here.
It's gone. And then I'm traveling for 3 weeks from here, and I'm going from left to right, and I'm terrible at maintaining, juggling multiple things at the same time.
Because I think Jeff would really, I mean, if you followed up, and have you met him? Have you? I'm trying to get you a job. That's all.
Yeah,
I'll be your agent.
I would love that. Right? You know what? I have not been aggressive or direct in what I've wanted to do since I got to LA. I kind of wrote things out and had the waves came up and down real quick.
Yep.
And I had to just try to stay afloat. And in trying to stay afloat is when I started to travel for longer periods of time just to teach, just booking one studio from the next, one city to the next. And I loved it. it allowed me just to focus on just working and not have the distractions that I sometimes have here when you don't have plans for a day.
Right. And you're like, I should be taking care of this to-do list, but instead you're like, let's go hiking at Runyon because it's nice out. It does happen here.
Yeah. So I've just been terrible about building any kind of momentum in a specific direction here. I'll take on projects and I'll be part of performances and things, and that becomes my focus for 3 months. That assisting Erica Sobel for 3 months on a training intensive, like that becomes my focus, and that's what I'm doing. And then this is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm doing. But I realize I now need to hustle and have a direct focus in what I want to get out of LA. That it's not just going to come to me.
What do you want to get out of LA now that you've been here? What do you want? This is a little dance therapy now.
Yeah, right.
Bring it down.
You know what? There's a lot that LA has to offer everyone, especially dancers, including choreographers. I feel like out here I'm focusing more on my training, and not in the sense of me training to dance and perform, but my training in things that I'm interested in. The I don't want to say styles, but the people that I'm interested in working with, the people that I respect and that I want to learn from. Those things feed into my teaching by inspiration or by someone unlocking a door that I've been trying to get through for a really long time. Just like, this is interesting to me. I'm going to learn more about that.
Who are you dying to work with? Give me a list of some people.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about how important classes can be and how life-changing an hour and a half can be. And I was thinking back to the first time I took a lot of these classes. Sometimes I only took class from these people like one time, and something they said or did or my experience there changed my pathway.
Yep.
People like, obviously my three teachers, my three strongest mentors in Utah, Kelly Messerly, Rick Robinson, and Trey Barber. But out here, Wade Robson.
Oh yeah.
Mia Michaels, Liz Imperio.
You got a good list.
Justin Giles, Erica Sobel, Kevin Maher, Shonique and Lisette, Nick Flores.
These are good.
Andy Moore, Dee Casperry, Tabitha Napoleon. I'm missing a massive.
No, but this is a good list. I'm like, we're throwing it out to the universe, of course. But I think that's what's important. There's so much happening here in dance, and there's been, I've even felt it from my side of the fence of just even, and I keep saying it's like the La La Land effect. There's been a massive push since last fall. That's at a pace that I can barely keep up to for coverage out here on the West Coast by myself. But at the same time, it's amazing to watch and amazing to see the rise of a choreographer and how important they are and how they're not just like, I came in on set, like throw in a couple movements and we'll see you later.
Right.
That they're actually being consulted on the overall look of the whole thing. It's not just a director saying, this is what I want.
Right.
I like the collaborative effort that I'm seeing now.
And that's, it's one of those things where two creative people in one room are going to come up with a lot more ideas to work with than one creative person in one room.
Better ideas.
Yeah, and something to bounce things off of. You need an editor. You need to be just throwing ideas out there and then pick and choose what you're going to focus on.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need to sound off of someone and hear your ideas back and decide, is this better than this, and which direction do I want to go? And
that makes sense.
And that way you can just. Someone saying yes to that allows me to, okay, let's take this risk. And then I'll say yes to that, and then we'll take this risk.
Yeah. And that's when you wind up with things that are visually stunning. And I think that's why, even if La La Land story-wise wasn't your favorite movie or anything, because sometimes people are like, I love it, I hate it. I loved it.
I loved it.
To me, visually, you couldn't have had all of Damien Chazelle's work without Mandy Moore's influence. It wouldn't have worked, and he understands
Most
that.
definitely.
He's a big collaborator with musicians and everything else, and obviously choreography and his set designers and everything. But not all directors see that, and I'm
Right.
hoping that we're seeing like a door opening to that.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way with choreographers. There's so much that I have to learn from other choreographers and other teachers. I'm hungry to work with other people. I'm hungry to get in the room and just create and just vibe off of things. And I think that's what I'm going to be doing while I'm teaching out here.
Okay.
I think it's going to be more of this communal workshopping conversation instead of the me show or the my move show.
Yeah. That's okay too, though. You know that. That is
yes,
okay.
it is. Yes, it is. But there's a lot of that.
Yes.
There's a lot of that, and I take those classes, and I love those classes because it builds something that is also important in dance. I forgot where I was going.
No, well, I have a question
Yes.
based off of this, and this is kind of the Dancing with the Stars question that has happened. You've collaborated with a lot of the pros.
Yes, I actually went through. I was working on a choreography reel, and I was collecting footage from where I could find it. Had 31 pieces,
31
including
pieces.
3 from this season. That I'd done in collaboration.
In collaboration, and this
saying
is what I
collaboration.
need. This has been. I'm sure you've seen some of the social media shenanigans, or have you shielded yourself from it?
You know what? Me and social media have an interesting relationship. It's complicated.
It's okay.
And so I'm still learning how to navigate, or how I want to navigate it. And I often just disappear from it
That's okay.
and then try to come back, and it's very inconsistent. But yeah, I've read things here and there, but nothing ever phases me.
Well, can we set the record straight on all of this? Because I think,
Sure.
because to me, I don't. A football head coach has an assistant coach, or for me, I have a producer, and one can't do the thing without the other. And I think it's the same thing. Sometimes pros can choreograph a number by themselves. They're like, I know the style like the back of my hand, and I know what I can do for my celebrity. But they're under pressure all the time.
Right.
It's fast paced. Collaborating, again, as you were just talking about it, is actually pretty important to the show.
Yeah, I agree. You can only do so many cha-chas to a Pitbull song without having some kind of nuance to make it memorable in the last.
Right. And not look like something you did 2 seasons ago.
Right.
Because, and we know that the music choices sometimes, they're like, we couldn't clear this. This is what you got this week.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't sound like cha-cha music. So
Right.
how do you create something? How are you? And you've worked with Whitney and Lindsay. You've worked with Sharna, I believe.
I worked with Sharna,
Val,
with Val,
Mark.
with Mark, with
Yep. Derek.
Emma.
Okay. I'm just throwing this out there. So when did they contact you like, I just got this song choice, I've got this style, can you come in and work with me on some ideas?
Yes, basically that.
Okay.
And sometimes it is a couple weeks in advance. Sometimes it is the week of. Sometimes I've gotten the day of before. And often
we're
it's like,
stuck.
it's always, are you in LA? And sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. And when I am, it's such a fun thing for me to do. It's collaborating, and you're working with professionals who also are on a time crunch.
Right.
And you already know the limitations going in. You know that you have time limitations. You know you're set. You know entrances and exits or possibilities of them. You know you're usually. If I don't come in right away at the beginning, you know the limitations of the partner.
Yep.
And also usually their strengths by then. So it's kind of just like figuring out, mapping things out, and then putting steps into play and deciding, once again, deciding what you're going to actually showcase in that.
And you can also take a step back as the pro and the celeb are dancing and go, that's not working. Like you become a third eye as well that they don't necessarily have.
Yes, and I don't always get used for that. I do prefer that. I do prefer when I can come in at the beginning, and then in the middle, and then closer to the end of the week, so that I can see the progress, and so that the things that felt good in my body as we're choreographing it might not feel great for someone who's 6'8", and so
with really big feet. Some of those guys have really big feet. It's hard.
So making little adjustments, I feel like actually is probably more beneficial than me coming in and choreographing sometimes.
Okay. Here's another question. Do you sometimes just work with the pro, not the celeb?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And that's usually how it starts.
Okay.
It's usually just with the pro because they their first rehearsal they teach as much as they can, and then depending on the week, we will either regroup and meet and take another pass at it or make adjustments that are needed, and then kind of continually from there. And then I will.
He's like, how can I say this?
Yeah. Yes, I have worked with a handful of the celebs at times, and I think I'm really good at editing. I'm really good at looking at something and saying, okay, the camera should probably go from here to here, and this should move like this, and this should move like this, and no, that hand looks really awkward. The body language, make little adjustments to just make things a little more refined. And for camera, you're dancing for camera, and you're dancing. It's to be entertaining, and it's not to be perfect. And so I try my best to make a ballroom that feels so traditional, or these styles that can be treated so traditionally, making them more fun just for TV.
Yep.
It's never anything too serious.
You want the viewers to vote.
Yeah.
That's you really, when you think about it, you want them to be like, that was a really fun dance, or I was really moved by that dance. So let me throw 10 votes to whomever it is that week. Yeah, because it's a competition show at the end of the day, which is a little bit of a popularity contest, but you know, that's what happens with Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Do you, I'm just trying to think of all these questions, because I just want this whole question to go away. I'm sure you do too, because I get the questions every season these come up, and your name comes up, and I'm like, I talked about it with Spencer Liff. Spencer Liff has worked behind the scenes, you know, come in as a contributing choreographer, not gotten credit, and he's like, this happens all the time, people, and not just Dancing with the Stars, it happens on other shows. Do you mind if you get credit or not? If someone gives you a shout out on social media, like, hey, thanks to Alan for doing it, or do you not care because you know coming in that?
I think that has shifted. I think it went from not caring to, wait, maybe I should be caring, to I know what I'm getting myself into. I know the parameters of the show, and I know, unfortunately, that I'm at the very, very bottom of the totem pole, and it's not important enough for other people to do something about it, and I don't want to fight about it. So as long as I know what the situation is, I know what I'm getting out of it. I know what I'm contributing, and I enjoy it. Then I'm okay with it. But I do. It is hard feeling. It's. I'm a ghost choreographer in a sense, and I'm all about. I will be behind the scenes for the rest of my life, and I'd be okay with that. And I feel like my job is to make other people look good. But when you're getting credited as a choreographer, not just a dance partner, not just a personality, that's where it gets a little tricky, because there's very few dance shows on television that reach that many people. And it's not about. It's just wondering where you draw the line of like respect.
Well, and I want to say to you guys and share with everyone too, because there are television union rules in play here for some of this. And I think, you know, that this is not about anyone being a bad guy or anything.
Not at all.
But I don't want anyone to misinterpret you.
Yes, thank you.
And as someone who is a member of both the TV Academy, I am, so just for disclosure, as well as you know, a Screen Actors Guild member. First of all, choreographers are not unionized, but they are members of the TV Academy, which is super confusing. Yes. But you're not paid. If you're not paid by Dancing with the
Right.
Stars, if they're not handing you a paycheck
right.
with like BBC America on it, you then do not become eligible if the pro submits a choreography reel for an Emmy.
Yes.
And that is clearly, it's like the number one rule that is listed right there on the TV Academy rules. I went and double checked today. I pulled it up just to double check. So there's a lot of weird, murky rules right now that not only that the choreographers have to figure out because they haven't unionized yet, they're hoping to because
Right.
of the TV Academy. And then once that happens, once they unionize, hopefully the TV Academy can sort of figure out that.
Yeah.
And so I think
And
that explains a lot too.
Yeah, and definitely it's and I think it's not even about the Emmys because that's almost its own thing. It's something extra. Do you know what I mean?
You
like
don't, you don't
it's
do
not
it
mandatory.
Going, I hope I get nominated for an Emmy.
Yeah, not at all.
But I think what people sort of confuse is like, why did Talia Favia choreograph, PETA and why can't I think of his name right now? Niles, yeah. And I was like, she was directly paid by BBC. She was paid by the show because she was able to submit it. She got credit.
Yeah, and what was ironic is I was in the other room that same week choreographing for Mark.
And why,
Paige.
why they do one for the other is
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have an answer to that, right?
Right.
We don't have an answer because we're not the executive producers of Dancing with the Stars.
Right.
But I think that these are issues that we're talking about that are exactly that. They're issues that choreographers need to figure out because right now you guys aren't getting health insurance, residuals, important things, credit where you should. Anyone that choreographed on Dance Moms did not get any choreography credit. So there are things that these need to be tackled, and I know Mandy and Kat Burns at the Television Academy are like really trying to focus in on that.
Yeah, and I think it's only fair. I think accrediting someone doesn't take something away from anyone else.
That's right. It certainly doesn't because it's a collaborative process and you guys are working together. And but I hope that all of you guys get the credit that you deserve. And I think that I think for Dancing with the Stars fans, sometimes they don't understand that this is kind of way bigger than one show or one dance. It's,
right.
The industry needs to figure this out, and it should have been figured out in the MGM musical days.
Right.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
And so I think that...
Yeah, I think also for me, the fact that I get to help on the show, it really is just, I have a great time working with my former students or my friends. And it never feels like it never feels so very difficult. It's always fun. I'm around good people. They treat me very well. Everyone's super kind to me there. And so I don't feel mistreated or jaded about it.
Right.
Otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Of course, and that's what people need to understand too.
Yeah.
Like, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, and I don't need anyone fighting for me. Like, if I'm very concerned about something, I will speak up and I will deal with that privately. But I haven't felt the need to.
Yep.
This isn't my priority or the biggest. I feel like it's something supplemental to what I actually do. And so it doesn't have a whole lot of weight with me. I don't leave thinking, oh man, I wish someone would say my name.
And I'm never coming back.
Right.
No, that's not it.
The only times I think I feel frustrated is when I'm like in a lull for work, and I'm like, I wish I would have, I don't know, just something else that I could, that would put me out there a little bit more.
That makes sense. But thank you for talking about this because I know it's like I think that it's a bigger level than what we all are and what Dance with the Stars. But I just wanted to like pull in that there's a lot of other things at play when it comes to this, and you're not the only one that helps is a contributing choreographer on the show.
And it's not something personal against me or me against the show. It's just
no one's treating you badly,
No.
and it's if you're collaborating, it's because someone wants you there and you're happy to do it if you're in town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's sometimes just consulting. Sometimes I come in and it's already done, and I come in and be like, blah, 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 change this and that, and this makes more sense for this, and try this and try this. When it comes to working with Lindsay especially, I love being able to, when I worked with her with Alec, we worked a lot of the majority of the season, and getting to see her like flourish as a choreographer and be able to teach her how to workshop things. Say, well, if he's having a hard time with this, try these exercises.
Yeah.
This is why I'm making this choice, or this is what makes sense to me. And almost teaching how to teach through the process. Students that I've taught forever. So I think we quickly go into those roles. And now we have such a good rhythm where I don't feel like I even have to do that. Like, I kind of just get to watch and enjoy.
You're a good teacher. She was a good student, though, too.
Well,
and
she's
she
fantastic.
passes it. I mean, but I think we've all seen the evolution of Lindsay Arnold, and it's so much fun to watch because. I spoke to her, and she did a season as a pro, and then she was in troupe for a while, and she just said, I was so ready. I learned so much. And then when she had that opportunity with Alec, it was wonderful to see, because she wasn't like, I'm in troupe. She never had that attitude. She took it as a learning lesson. And Keo said the same thing. He said, I did a season in troupe. I was there to learn. How am I learning for other pros and how they teach? And I take that. If you spin it positively, it's a wonderful. And by the way, you're still a dancer on a top 10 show, still getting paid every week.
You're doing just fine.
You're doing just fine. Every single one.
I understand the stress of, like, you want the top job.
Of course you do, but at
the
same
end of the day, you still have a great job.
You have a great job, and there's people that would love your job. We only have about 10 minutes left, but I do want to ask about World of Dance.
World of Dance.
World of Dance. I had an interesting summer with World of Dance.
Okay.
I had people that loved the experience on the show. Other people were frustrated by the experience. Some people were a mixed bag. How did you feel? Because we didn't get to see a lot of Fuse.
Right. My personal experience is an interesting one. You know what? I knew what I was getting myself into. Mm-hmm. And then I thought I knew what I was getting myself into.
And then you didn't.
And then I was in it. And then I was like, man, I should have listened to myself when I had decided not to audition in the first place.
Interesting. So so season 2 is not in your agenda?
No.
Okay.
I mean, not as far as I know right now.
Did you submit for season 2?
I did not.
Okay.
Not. Yeah.
Okay.
No.
You might have helped someone for season 2.
No, and I'm open to working in different avenues with the show.
Perfect.
But I ended up dancing on my group, mm-hmm. which was a fluke. I had reached out to other dancers, and over a 2-month process of like getting ready for the show, I lost quite a handful for different jobs, and mm-hmm. I was encouraged that I'm like, take the job, don't do this. This is like, I have no idea what it's going to be like.
Yep.
For how long, and so the jobs always took priority. So I ended up having to fill one of those slots.
Were you happy about that?
I actually was not. Like,
yeah.
Those shows run so fast paced, and I can't work in the way of being inside of something and on the outside.
Yep.
And feel like I'm doing a good job.
Stress of that is a lot.
Yeah, so I definitely buckled, I think, left and right through the process. I learned so much.
I was just going to say, that must have been a great learning experience, though.
Yeah, and what the show did and how it brought so many amazing dancers into the same room and onto the same stage, that was really cool. I wish, like, my experience backstage was amazing, watching Ian Eastwood and watching Super Crew and watching Jabberwockies just rehearsing right here in front of you. And I'm a fan. I'm still a fan of dancers. I still look at amazing dancers and just drool over them, because
I had
I'm
Ian
so
here for an
inspired by
hour,
them.
and I was literally like, I can't believe I'm sitting across from Ian Eastwood, and he's 24.
Yeah.
I'm like, how are you that much of a genius at 24?
Yeah, it was so inspiring.
Yeah.
And so I loved being on set. I think it's just the logistics of like trying to figure out, getting in one ear something that you should be doing and suggestions from another side what you should be doing, and then me questioning everything that I had intended to be doing, and ended up going in directions that weren't me or weren't what I wanted to be doing.
Do you know that you're not the only one? I heard that constantly.
Yeah,
so
most definitely. And
a lot
I
of
think that's
people
part of it.
And it's funny because I'm trying to think. I've talked with Ian, Keone and Mari, Super Crew. I'm just trying to think. And a lot of the younger kids. The younger kids is a little bit different when they're in the junior category. But, the adults, they said, some people were like, we stuck to our guns and said, no, no, no. And then others that were like shuffling orders of dances. I think for some of them, they felt like, you know what, I didn't stay true to who I am as a dancer or what my choreography is. And that there were a lot of opinions swirling around, which I think, judging from like Nappy Tabs and their tweets and stuff, that everyone learned a lot on that first season, and they are going to button up some things for season 2, including the time of the show. I mean, we're getting more weeks. We're getting 2 hours instead of an hour.
It'll only grow and it'll only get better.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that it's just going to take time. It's not a bad idea. It's going to take time to figure out how to execute it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to just slowly build an even bigger audience. And
it is the #1 show for NBC worldwide.
That's
now,
amazing.
Which is incredible.
It's amazing.
It really is what it did for dance. And I people were frustrated that Les Twins won, but I'm like, there's a reason that they won, because they are global superstars, and it does, shine a spotlight on the show so that season 2, 3, and beyond becomes even bigger. So, I mean, I understand both sides, but it was really interesting hearing from everyone, hearing the good, hearing the bad. I had David Gonzalez, who runs the tour side of it, and he kind of gave me his opinion, and he didn't have a lot, like NBC was kind of running the show. So it was a lot of hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah. And it's not that they were ever bad hands.
No.
It was just they were trying to get everyone to fit their mold.
Yeah.
And that never makes sense to a dancer or to a choreographer. And I think keeping the individuality would have I think benefited it.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I'm looking forward to season 2. So
yeah, and it'd be nice if there was a dance show like this where you would have dancers from everywhere showcase opposed to making it a competition.
Yes.
Because then it really encourages the individuality.
And the $1 million is nice. We get that. So we would all like the $1 million. But yeah, at the same time, sometimes it's just nice as a variety show. How about that, people? Right. Before we wrap up and before I reveal the winner for the So You Think You Can Dance Tour meet and greet, it's not you. I'm sorry. It's not me either. I'm not getting the meet and greet. I do want to ask one final question of you. Alan Salazar, where are we going to see you in 5 years? Have you thought that out?
In 5 years, how old will I be? Oh, man.
It's okay. The age doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, eventually it does.
It doesn't.
I'm not sure where I will be in 5 years. I like to take things sometimes just a day at a time, like quite literally just a day at a time.
So you're telling me I should call you tomorrow and be like, where are you, Alan?
I'll be somewhere else. But I hope to be just doing exactly what I am doing now, which is teaching and sharing my knowledge of dance and life, hopefully just more widespread than it is now.
Well, I love that. And I really, honestly, I do appreciate you answering some tougher questions.
Yeah, of course.
Because I was just like, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I know, but it's kind of interesting because I do get the questions. Spencer Lift kind of answered it, but I was like, people want to hear from you too. So, people want to hear from you, Alan.
Thank you.
All right, now I have to tell you that I'm going to reveal the winner of the So You Think You Can Dance Tour VIP meet and greet tickets. And I will tell you there were a ton of entries. Random.org picked out the number. I did not pick out the number or anything. But the funny thing is that the person who won was actually tweeting me before the show going, do I have to watch the show in order to win? And I was thinking, you have no idea, Emily, you won. So Emily, and I don't know your last name, but it's Emily Eliza 97. You're going to the show. 2 tickets, Fort Myers, October 30th. Congratulations. So I will be sending you a message, and we'll email back and forth and make sure that you get those tickets in time for the show. I'm kind of jealous.
Congrats.
I know you get to meet Lex and Kiki, and I don't know who everyone's favorite is, Taylor and Pointe. It was a good season. So. All right. Before we go, let everyone know where they can find you on social media, even though you are...
It's at Alan Salazar _
Okay.
For Instagram and...
Do you tweet?
No.
No, he does not tweet.
And Facebook is just falling asleep in my phone constantly. So no.
So Instagram's probably
Instagram.
the way for everyone
Yeah.
to hit you up. All right, fantastic. Next week, I will have Kristyn McQuaid here talking about her work with Grace Vanderwall. Oh, all that Dance Moms controversy, of course, and some of her work with So You Think You Can Dance contestants. And we want to remind you guys that if you want further information or some of our great dance articles, check out dancenetwork.tv. Thank you so much for joining me on To The Point with Kristyn Burtt, presented by Popcorn Talk and Dance Network.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.